Recording in progress. Monitor Dr. Manavati, Assistant Professor in the Department of Economics. See, students, in today's class, we are going to discuss about the primary as well as secondary functions of the depositories, credit rating agencies. See, the term depository in the sense it is a facility in which something is deposited for storage or safeguarding, or an institution that accepts currency deposits from customers such as a bank or a savings association. A deposit can be an association or a bank or institution that holds securities as well as assists in the trading of securities. So, a depository provides security as well as liquidity in the market. At the same time, it uses money deposited for safe keeping to lend to others. So, invest in other securities as well as it offers a funds transfer system. So, a depository may return the deposit in the same condition upon request. A depository is a facility or institution such as a building or office or it may be a warehouse where something is deposited for storage or safeguarding. These repositories may be the organizations or it may be banks or institutions that hold securities and assist in the trading of securities. So they provide security as well as liquidity. It uses the money deposited to lend to others, invest in securities, and offer a funds transfer system. Then let us clearly discuss about this depository system. See, it means if we see the understanding depositories, see, as we have discussed earlier, these repositories are buildings or it may be some offices or it may be some warehouses also. So, these type of repositories allow consumers as well as business to accept or to deposit money, securities as well as other valuable assets because for keeping or for safekeeping. These depositories may include bank or safe houses or it may be some financial institutions as well as other organizations, right? See, at the same time, if we see about these depositories, it may serve multiple purposes for the general public. See, first, they eliminate the risk of holding physical assets to the owner. For example, banks, other financial institutions are given consumers a place to deposit money into time as well as demand deposit accounts. A time deposit in the sense it is an interest bearing account. At the same time, it has a specific maturity date. It may be a certificate of deposit, while a demand deposit account holds funds until they need to be withdrawn, such as checking or savings account. These deposits can also come in the form of securities such as stocks or bonds. When these type of assets are deposited, the institution holds the securities in electronic form, also considered as a book entry form or in the dematerialized or paper format such as a physical certificate. So these organizations also help create liquidity in the market. Customers give their money to a financial institution with the believe the company holds it and gives it back when the customer wants it back. So these type of institutions normally they are accepting the consumers' money and pay interest on their deposits over time. So while holding these deposits or the customers' money, the institutions lend it to others in the form of mortgage or business loans are generating more interest on the money than the interest paid to customers, right? Now, let us discuss about the functions of depository. What are the main functions of depository? We are going to discuss very clearly. First function is It serves as a link between public companies as well as the investors and or shareholders. So a repository functions as a connecting link between the public companies that issue financial securities and the investors or shareholders. So these the securities are issued by agents associated with depositories who are known as depository participants. The agents are possible or they are responsible for transferring the securities from the depositories to the investors. A depository participant can be a bank or an institution or a brokerage. The second function of this depository is it eliminates the risk related to owning physical financial securities. A repository allows traders as well as investors to hold the securities in dematerialized form. Thus, it eliminates the risk related to holding physical financial securities. The buyers and sellers now they do not need to check whether the securities have been transferred successfully without any loss or theft. The repository system reduces such risk by allowing the securities to be held and transferred in electronic form. Then the third function is it allows the provision of loans or mortgages to interested parties. A repository holds the securities of customers. At the same time, it gives them when the customers want. The customers receive interest on the deposits, while the repository earns even more interest by lending their deposits to other people or businesses in the form of loans or mortgages. Then the fourth function is it reduces paperwork and it accelerates the process of transferring securities. When a trade occurs, a repository transfers the ownership of the securities from the account of one investor to another. It helps in reducing the paperwork associated with the finalization of the trade and accelerates the process of transfer of securities. So this is the another function of this depository. So we have clearly discussed about 4 functions. Then let us discuss about the types of this depository. What are the main types of these depository institutions? The main categories of these depository institutions are, first one is commercial banks. See, as far as commercial banks are concerned, these are some profit organizations generally owned by the private investors. So the range of these services offered by these commercial banks depends on the size of the banks. For example, the services offered by the smaller banks are limited to the consumer banking, small mortgages as well as loans, smart simple deposits as well as banking for small business and businesses. The market range is also limited in the case of smaller banks. On the contrary, larger banks and global banks offer a wide range of services such as foreign exchange related services, money management as well as investment banking. Some larger and global banks may also offer services for other banks and large organizations. The services offered by the large bank is the most reverse among all depository institutions. Then the next type is credit unions. See, as far as these credit unions are concerned, these are financial cooperatives implying that these depository institutions are owned by members of a particular group. The profits earned are either paid to the members as dividends are reinvested into the organization. The members of the credit unions are the ones that own accounts in the institution. Hence, the depositors are also partial owners and receive dividends. Since these unions are non-profit institutions, they pay no federal or state tax. Hence, the interest rate charged by these credit unions on loans is lower, and they pay a higher interest rate on deposits. Then the next type is savings institution. The saving institutions are the banks serving a local community, and loan institutions are normally considered as saving institutions. So the local residents deposit money in the bank, and their money is offered back in the form of mortgages, consumer loans, credit cards, as well as loans for small businesses. Savings institutions can sometimes be set up as corporations or a financial cooperative, allowing the deposits to get an ownership share in the organization. So a depository may be a facility or institution such as a building or office or warehouse. Here something is deposited or storage or safeguarding. Depositories may be organizations or banks or institutions that hold securities and assist in the trading of securities, because they provide security as well as liquidity, use of money deposited to lend to others, right? So these transferring the ownership of shares from one investor account to another account. When a trade is executed in one of the primary functions of a depository. This helps reduce the paperwork for executing a trade as well as speeds up the transfer process. So another function of a repository is the elimination of risk of holding the securities in physical form, such as theft, loss, fraud, damage, or delay in the deliveries. An investor who wants to purchase precious metals can purchase them in physical bullion or paper form. Gold or silver bars or coins can be purchased from a dealer and kept with the third-party depository. Investing in gold through future contracts is not equivalent to the investors owning gold. Instead, gold is owned to the investor. A trader or hedger looking to take away delivery on a futures contract. It must be first establish a long futures position and wait until a short tenders a notice of delivery. With gold futures contracts, the seller is committing to deliver the gold to the buyer at the contract expiry date. The seller must have the metal. In this case, gold is an approved depository. This is represented by holding Comex approved electricity depository warrants which are required to make or take delivery. Okay, friends, in today's class, we have clearly discussed about the term depository. So the remaining aspect we will discuss in the next class. Thank you, students.